Why are you in a good mood?
I don't know. We've had a laugh, you know, had a little joke, you know. I mean, yeah, had a laugh.
That was off air. Do you want to tell them what we was joking about?
We're laughing at some of the outros or outtakes.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, people. You're back once again, fully booked. In the studio with myself, Mace.
Myself, French.
Myself, Pox.
I think, well, boys, episode 4 fully booked.
Yeah.
So we're on part 3. For those who've actually got the book attached, which we're currently going through and relating to everyday lives. Part 3, when attachment styles clash. We're on page 153, which starts with the title, the heading, the anxious avoidant trap. That's what we're going to go through in today's episode. And yeah, ready to kick off and really get into a good listening hour or so of that good-ish.
Alright, bro. I'll get it started in regards to the stories that the book refers to. Now, there's a few, so I'm not going to go into all of them, but one that does stick out for me, I thought it was good to bring up, is the romantic bed and breakfast in Vermont. And there's 2 people, one Susan, one being Paul. And basically, I'm not going to go into the full details, but I'll kind of give you a brief synopsis of it. So they decide to go on a spontaneous weekend trip to Vermont, and when they get there, they check into a B&B.
Where's Vermont, Canada?
No, I feel like it's
America. Anyway, sorry. Alright, go on.
Totally irrelevant.
So Susan and Paul gone.
Yeah, so a couple basically, they go away to this. They check out 2 B&Bs. Now both places are cozy and inviting. So one room has 2 single beds, and the other has a room with 1 large queen size bed. Now Paul wants a room with 2 single beds because he wants the view, and that's what he's looking to go away for. He wants to get a brilliant view. And Susan wants the 1 large bed because
she wants intimacy.
Yeah, she can't imagine going on a romantic getaway and having to sleep in separate beds.
And neither can I, to be honest. But anyway, go on.
That wasn't where we was going with the story.
I'm just letting you know. Well,
yeah, that's how you feel. Yeah, exactly. That's how you feel. So, Paul basically...
Is this PGR? 2 single beds? Sorry. Go on.
So, Paul's basically saying, look, we sleep in the bed every night. What's the big deal? He wants to enjoy the view because it's a beautiful view. They don't come out to where they are. It's a Vermont at the end of the day, and he wants to appreciate the views that they can see. Whereas Susan feels ashamed that she has to. Well, she feels such an urge that she can't sleep one night without being in the same bed as Paul. But neither one wants to kind of give in and say, alright, cool, let's take that room, or take one takes the other room. Okay. So what happens is they argue, and it messes up their whole weekend, unfortunately. But where would you stand in that same situation? What would you do? Would you say to your woman or your partner, whatever side you're on, I'll sacrifice what I want for you?
If I'm putting myself in Paul and Susan's situation,
yeah.
Listen, if I'm going away, I think for me, if you go away with your partner, look, everyone's got the stresses. So we're London boys, yeah, but whatever town, city you're from, everyone has the everyday stresses, and I'm sure there's a lot of monotony in people's lives, yeah. And the whole purpose of going away, getting away from that same old, part of it is obviously to just generally have a break, yeah. But part of it is also, I feel like, to kind of regain that kind of intimacy and closeness. And if you're sleeping in 2 separate beds, how are you supposed to regain that? But But if I go away a pocket, then yeah, we share 2. We have 2 separate. We have 2 separate. I'm saying we have 2 separate beds because obviously we're not in it like that. And anyhow, you have any visions like that, you best.
Yeah, but obviously it's not that. We're not talking about that.
But what I'm saying is, for me, if you're with a romantic partner,
yeah,
you go where you're sharing a bed. Like it's just that's what it is, isn't it? Okay. For me. That's where I stand on it. I feel like part of it is about the intimacy, getting away, and the fact that you can be intimate. You ain't got to get up 7 in the morning to go and do a hard day's graft or whatever.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
of
saying?
course, that's nice. What's your opinion on that?
I think it's a madness, man. I can't believe Paul at the age of 28 is actually considering getting separate beds. You're going on a romantic weekend away with your partner and you're considering actually getting separate beds. There's definitely a lot of spontaneity in this one here, mate, because it's definitely a surprise that you'd actually want separate beds. I'm actually lost on this one here, if I'm honest. If you're with your loved one, your partner, I mean, naturally, as I mentioned before...
Sorry, I think French's question was, would you sacrifice the views to have one bed? So I'm guessing you're on the side of you want the one bed.
I want the one bed, 100%.
So would you sacrifice those amazing views you can get?
Yeah, fuck the views.
You're going away to an amazing place, and you're gonna be staring at 4 walls, become like prison.
But what would you said you would do the one bed thing, though, innit?
Yeah, but I'm playing devil's advocate right now, man.
Alright, cool. Me personally,
Yeah.
I'll keep it 100.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I would do the separate beds. I would take the view, but what I would do is I'll put the 2 single beds together as one, and we. But it's as far as I'm concerned, it's a compromise. Like, I'm getting the view, we're still getting the attachment of being together. For me personally, you could say, oh well, maybe there's a split down the middle of the beds. I think that's a minimal. I think the fact that you're in close proximity of each other, you've both got the beds, you're together, he can see the view. You're both. It's a win-win. Do you know what I mean?
You know what, Mason said something I think very interesting in I think it was one of the previous episodes about not necessarily understanding his partner and thinking not necessarily that she was nuts, but like that's the way I look at it. If I'm thinking the shoes on the other foot, in that she wanted the views and I wanted the beds close together. Yeah, I'm the type of person that will compromise, but in back of my mind, I'm thinking, you're mad. We've come on a romantic weekend away, and you want 2 separate beds and the possibility of bringing them together. I don't get it, and I don't quite understand it. And we're going on a romantic weekend together. I want to get closer to you. I'm assuming that's the whole idea, obviously, a romantic weekend away. I'm lost in the idea. We might as well stay at home.
Do you know what? Now that French has hit the nail on the head, yeah, compromise. And do you know what? That's the key for me. Like, forget this book right now. Well, not forget it because it's the Bible. But I think in any relationship it's going to be a compromise. I had a very interesting... I know this is going off topic.
Yeah, go on.
I had a very interesting conversation with a good friend of mine. I went out for dinner yesterday with a few of my guys for like the whole kind of Christmas dinner thing. And me and my guys started talking. And one of the things he brought up was about the need in a relationship to compromise and how much... And when he met his partner, they've been together for a number of years now. When he met his partner, he wasn't the finished article, she wasn't the finished article, and they knew they had to go together, and they met quite young. But the key thing was compromise and working through it. And as long as there's enough movement, I think might even cover in the chapter somewhere in this book. It does make reference to attachment styles and then being plastic as in flexible.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's probably the same with people when they're in a relationship. Plastic, compromise, flexible. It's all the same kind of thing. I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're really that kind of stubborn about, I've come away, wherever we are, Vermont, from wherever we come from, the views in here are one in a million. You're telling me you want to stay at 4 walls because you want Nicky at night. There's other person saying, listen, like, we're always working, I'm doing night shift, you're doing day shift. This for me is romantic, just the fact that we can have that closeness, that bond. Compromise is the key. And you know what? I'm with you on this one, I'm afraid to say.
Afraid to say?
No, I'm not afraid to say.
It's not a case that I'm against compromise, because I think I'm generally a person who likes to compromise. I'm thinking in this situation here, because I know what we've done, we've actually flipped it on its head, and we're saying if I, as in a male, was Susan, and if the female was Paul.
Go on.
Am I right in saying so?
Well, you've done it, but go on.
Okay, no, well, that's what I thought we did anyway. In that,
You did it.
No. In that, what Susan is the one who wanted the bed, the single bed, and Paul's the one who wanted the views. Am I right in saying so?
Yeah.
But I think you kind of, like you said, you're playing devil's advocate.
What's your point?
My point is saying, of course, I'm down to compromise. I'm generally a person who obviously likes to compromise, but I'm saying, like, I'm kind of a little bit lost in here in terms of why you actually want to compromise on this. I'm quite simple.
No, what we're saying is generally.
Yeah.
In a situation like this where one person's saying one thing, another person's saying another, as in they're at 2 complete opposites, compromise is probably the key so they both get a degree of satisfaction in what they want. Does that make sense?
Totally understand you. I totally understand the situation, but here I'm looking at you sideways, mate, in that we're in a romantic situation, a romantic relationship, and we're considering actually putting the 2 beds together. As you mentioned before, what is this, PGL? This is a madness, mate. I'm lost on this, mate. Look at it. There's a sentence I'm looking at here. I'm thinking, who am I in a relationship here? We sleep in the same bed every night. What's the big deal? What is the big deal?
Alright. So moving on. The telltale signs of the anxious avoidant trap. There are 6 of them.
Okay.
Then being the roller coaster effect, the emotional counterbalancing act, stable instability. Are we really fighting about this? Life in a circle as an enemy, and experiencing the trap.
Okay.
In regards, I've been in an anxious avoidant relationship, so when I was reading through this, one that did stick out for me was the actual roller coaster effect.
And what is that? Do you want to just look down listeners' French?
I'll touch on
page 159 for those who are following on the book. So it's the telltale signs of the anxious avoidant trap.
So in a relationship, you never sail along in an even keel. Instead, every once in a while, when the avoidant partner makes him or herself available to the anxious partner, the latter's attachment system is temporarily quieted and you achieve extreme closeness, leading to the feeling of a high.
Is that for the anxious person?
Yeah.
Okay.
The closeness, however, is perceived as a threat by the avoidant partner and is quickly followed by withdrawal or his or her part, only to create a renewed dissatisfaction for the anxious partner. And I've done that unintentionally. I can't say unintentionally. Maybe subconsciously. I didn't realise what I was doing. But I do recall there being times when we can have a really nice weekend together, chilled, whatever, go out, do something really nice. And then for the following few days after that, because it's been so close, I may not necessarily reach out to that partner. I'll just kind of, not to say intentionally keep my distance, but I'll just be doing what I'm doing, do you know what I'm saying? Like whether it's working or just being busy doing what I'm doing. And then they would feel some kind of way after such a close weekend. It's like, why aren't you, it's almost like, why aren't you not following it up? Yeah. But for me, it was just like, yeah, I'm just doing what I'm doing, I'm busy, whatever. But maybe subconsciously it's because of that avoidant behaviour that I have, or trait, whatever.
Sorry, can I say something? Because like, I know like I might expand on it or see a little bit later, but is that out of fear of potentially falling more in love, if that makes any sense?
Nah, that's my point, bro. Like, I just said it was subconscious. So I'm doing it not knowing I'm doing it. Obviously I've now read the book, so I'm aware of certain things that I may have done. That's like, okay, well, that is a typical and avoidant thing to do or behaviour to do. But at the time, no, it wasn't a case of I'm falling in love or I'm trying to avoid falling in love. No, not at all. Like, for me, it was just, yeah, it was a nice weekend, cool. We done what we done, it was nice. Now I'm just, my mind's on doing whatever I'm doing. I'm not really thinking about following up with a text and a, do you know what I mean? That communication. So it was never a case of I'm actively thinking I'm avoiding this shit. Do you know what I'm saying?
Do you know what? Sorry, with your story, French, actually, there's a little segment on page 157, which is a couple of pages back, and I think it kind of sums it up beautifully. It says, when couples disagree about the degree of closeness and intimacy desired in a relationship, the issue eventually threatens to dominate all of their dialogue. We call this the anxious avoidant trap, because like a trap, you fall into it with no awareness, and like a trap, once you're caught, it's hard to break free. So you see how you said you might have a great weekend away, and then come back and all of a sudden, and then without realizing it, subconsciously, you've gone back to your kind of monotony of day-to-day work, whatever you're doing. Yeah. But because obviously you're now back in your everyday life, you can't have that natural closeness. The other person almost feels like you're semi-pushing them away, or hold on, like, I felt like we were emotionally collected and now it's not there no more.
Yeah, exactly.
So what happens, does that cause, as this kind of segment says, an issue in that the dominant or over kind of riding subjects of conversational talk, does it become that person, you and them going back and forth about how much time you spend together? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's brilliant. That's exactly what this kind of says, and you can actually first hand with your experience.
Yeah, but this is why I genuinely like the book, because I can read it and it's like I can put that situation or that scenario into my very own experience firsthand, as you just said, and it's very relevant. Just to kind of move on slightly in terms of that actual relationship.
Your relationship, the one that you was just talking about.
Yeah, the one I was referring to. it goes further on and how it actually ended up finishing when it came to its last leg, shall I say, the actual relationship. And it kind of sums it up in a sense on page 162.
Okay.
It says, with every clash, the anxious person loses more ground. During bitter fights between anxious and avoidant partners, when there is no secure checks and balances in place, people with anxious attachment styles tend to get overwhelmed by negative emotions. When they feel hurt, they talk, think and act in an extreme manner, even to the point of threatening to leave, which is protest behaviour.
Yeah.
However, once they calm down, they become flooded with positive memories and they are overcome with regret. They reach out to their partner in an attempt to reconcile, but they are often met with a hostile response because avoidants react differently to a fight. They turn off all attachments related memories and remember the worst of their partner.
Wow.
Yeah. So
For the purpose of people listening, French just made a nod and a kind of a wink and a hop, skip and a jump to say, yep, it's definitely true. Oh gosh, that's incredible though. That is very incredible. And having dated an anxious person, I definitely have seen firsthand the protest behaviour, but I didn't react how the last part of the script said in that turn off all emotions. I'm not quite cold like that. It's as cold as ice. There was one other thing I want to touch upon. See how the Susan and Paul story was really good. There's something as another story that's similar. Same but different, basically. Yeah. And it was Naomi and Kevin.
Yeah.
So this is just on page 155, guys.
Yeah.
So Naomi and Kevin started dating. I think they'd been together maybe 6 months or so, exclusively dating, so they're not seeing anyone else. Naomi's pissed off or cheesed off because Kevin's got a couple of old flames on Facebook which he hasn't unfriended. And what cheeses Kevin off is that Naomi, whenever he's out, she knows he's out. He said, I'm out with my boys tonight. And she'll still sting his phone 5-6 times.
Oh, that's annoying.
And he'll just air the calls.
Straight.
So, and Kevin, and they'll have disagreements about this. So linking back to what I said earlier about how your kind of, the main talking point of a relationship is about the degree of closeness and intimacy and communication. Naomi and Kevin, this kind of causes conflict in their relationship. Just people at home, how do you feel? And even I'm going to ask you boys in here as well. In the whole social media front, if you started dating someone, how do you feel about them having A, ties or links to their old flame, or if they're still friends, or B, just making reference or still seeing them? How do you guys feel about that? Because I'm sure that's a situation that must crop up a lot in new relationships where people have told them who their ex-partner is and they still have them on a social media account or still text or whatever. How does that make you feel? You guys, how have you been?
I'm not on social media like that, so it's never been a problem. Like,
alright,
no, don't get me wrong. I've had a partner, and they've got Facebook and what have you. True, I'm not on it. I can't see it, so I'm not really pennying what's going on in there, what's not. Okay. Whether she's talking to this don or not talking to that don. I'm not on social media, so I can't really. I'm not gonna get involved in it. I would never have that argument of, why are you still friend with that person or unfriend with that person? I'm not going to be able to have access to it unless I go in there and make a fake profile.
Well, okay, so people you've dated, have they had social media?
Yeah.
And have they said, my ex this and that?
Nah.
And, you don't even bother?
No, it's not even a topic. Because if they're going to be rapping to their ex-boyfriends on Facebook, then what are we doing? Like, really? Like, just tell me, innit? And we'll just keep it moving because it's long. Like, that's the thing though, because I'm not saying I'm anti-social media, but because I'm just not on it and I'm not really in it, those issues have never really been something that's come to the forefront with me. And I'm not really that much of a jealous person, so I'm not really going to be asking my partner about right, so who's on your Facebook and who's not on your Facebook. So that, me personally, is never become an issue. Will it become one in the future? I don't know.
Yeah, from the sounds of your DNA, you don't really get to.
No, it's not to say I don't care, but I'm not a jealous person. I don't do social media. So if you are gonna talk to your ex-partners on for social media, then great. But then you just you're better off just telling me, and do you know what I'm saying? Like, let's just keep it moving because it's unnecessary. Because you then become a hypocrite if I kept an ex-partner's number and start WhatsApping her. Do you know what I mean? Then you can't really get mad then if that's what you're actually doing on Facebook and whatever or not.
Isn't that a little bit different though? Like WhatsApping someone and maybe using social media.
Why? What's the difference?
No, because I think with social media, I think like you can come across people. I don't want to say indirectly, in that they can come across your timeline, and then maybe some type of exchange could potentially happen. Whereas with WhatsApp, you're actually seeking.
That's the same shit.
I don't think it is. I think it's a little bit indirect.
Shit, man.
No, I think it's still. I think there's still intent there. But I think it's still. I think there's.
I don't care, bro. Like if my beanie's flipping talking to someone, their ex via Facebook, it's just the same thing as
I mean,
WhatsApp.
the sin has been made. I think
Exactly.
the point I'm making, because I was gonna say before, would I have a problem with it? With my partner speaking to someone on.
Not necessarily speaking, just the fact that you started dating someone.
Yep.
Maybe they've got a social media profile.
Mm-hmm.
They've got 1 or 2 exes on there who you know of. Maybe they've spoken about, and they've said, "Oh, they done this to me," or blah blah blah. But yet they've still got them on there, meaning possibly they could still have a burning flame or something in there. Or let's cut that out. The fact they've got them on there. How are you okay with that? If they've got an ex-partner on there who you obviously know about.
No, sorry. I don't think I have a problem with that. And the reason why I say that is because, I mean, although your relationship may have, I don't want to say ended, sorry, it didn't end well as such. I mean, you may still be on like good terms, so I don't see why there should be a problem with you actually, not necessarily reaching out to that person, but you having a conversation with that person. Okay. You're going to come across these people in life. I mean, not in general, but you're going to have these awkward conversations, and I don't think I have an issue with it.
So unless... sorry to cut you, but then you shouldn't have a problem with them hollering at them on WhatsApp then?
No. I think there was a 2 different... the example I think you gave was... would you have a problem with her having a conversation with her ex via social media? But my thing with social media is people come across your timeline, and then from there sometimes you can have an exchange. Oh, that's a nice photo. Oh, where were you? Boom, boom, boom. And then you get into conversation.
Intent, bro.
No, there is intent there. But I'm saying it sounds mad, but I mean these things happen. Whereas if I go on my WhatsApp, I might go, I'm gonna talk to what's her name today.
No,
I think the intent's a bit more direct.
Because hold on, because what's that thing that they got now? The status thing. You can look on there, and it's got the stories now as well. Oh, that pops up one of the stories. Let me click the story. Oh, that's not.
But that's essentially
you can
like
say the same thing.
That's essentially social media as well. Then. Social media as well.
That's my point.
Okay, but I'm talking about WhatsApp from a point where we're not looking at stories. I know.
Yeah, but it's part of it. It's part and parcel now. So you can't then say that.
Wait, sorry to cut you. Should you have any communication with an ex?
But that's the point. For me, should you have any? No, not really. No.
What if you've got children for your ex?
That's different now.
So it depends on the scenarios then.
Yeah, of course.
But
when you're saying when you're putting kids into it, that's a whole different...
Alright, take the kids out. If it's an ex you dated for a good 2, 3, 4 years,
yeah,
it was 4 years ago or something, but you always had a solid foundation as in a friend basis, can that run? Can a girl you'll see and say to you, I'm going for a meal with my ex tonight, and then we'll catch up tomorrow, or I'll see you later?
That sounds a bit wishy-washy to me, boy.
Can she say that to you, Fred?
Can she say that to you?
Come on to me.
Spinning plates.
No, but hold on a minute. Well, anyway,
go on. I think we're
You think we're digressing a little bit?
I mean, yeah, slightly.
I think it's interesting.
I think it's interesting as well.
I think. Do you know what? We're gonna post this question up on our Insta.
No, we could go into it.
The reason I think, because should you ever have communication with an ex? And I think it'll be an interesting debate.
Yeah, because
I think it's fine personally. If you've still got a good relationship with that person,
yeah, I
think it's fine personally.
Okay.
And I also feel like if you're secure within yourself.
Low blow.
There's no low blow. Straight uppercut. And you Joshua Klitschko. No joke.
No, not me, bro.
No, joking. If you've still got a if you're secure within yourself, in the day, I feel like you have to have faith within your relationship that you're in it, like you're it's just you and that person in it.
Yeah.
And until it's not, don't go looking for things. And do you know what I'm saying?
But hence me not really bothered about the whole social media anyway. Like it's not a thing for me to not acknowledge it, and that's not because I've got my head in the sand. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just case that's what you're doing over there. That's what you're doing over there. The same way you're saying that you'll be fine with your ex going out with an ex of hers that they went to go dinner. It's almost like an attitude of, if that's what you're doing, that's what you're doing over there. If you end up fucking him, then just tell me and we're done. Do you know what I'm saying?
That's kind of my attitude.
That's the same thing that I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean,
it's a different scenario.
I feel that way as well. What I'm thinking though, with the psychology of sometimes like social media is like, I've got one or two people on my social media who I'm following them and they're following me, people who I've seen before, but I generally have no problems obviously with them following me and vice versa. And there's times obviously when I've seen pictures of them with other guys and stuff like that, and I'm not the jealous type, but there have been times when I'm like, what's going on here? Or no, I'm not gonna sit in live. Let me can I sit here live? Nah. Yeah. There's times when I thought, what's going on here? Or yeah, I mean, those type of thoughts. No, I don't want to say any real jealous thoughts, but I can see those type of things maybe arising within people if your partner has kind of moved on. So I mean, I definitely understand it, but myself, no. I think if you're in a relationship with someone, and I think your relationship is at a certain point, as in you're now ready to maybe take that first step as such, then no, I don't see why I should feel uncomfortable. But if you're in that like kind of like seeing stage, then you might be a little bit curious as to what that person is doing. But again, as you mentioned before, like go on then, go see him. Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with myself. You know what I mean? Or why don't you just tell me from the jump?
Interesting points. You're looked into Fully Booked. That's full_e_booked for the Twitter, the Instagram, the Facebook. We're on podcasts if you've got any Apple devices as well. This is season 1 of Fully Booked. We're on episode 4. And yeah, we're reading the book Attached. So if you haven't got it, go get it. Don't have to get it. It's not essential. Just tune in, listen. We go through, we divulge, and we interest and enlighten.
Yeah, I mean, kind of moving on from our last kind of topic, so to speak. It goes on to talking about identifying your integrated secure role model.
What page are we on, French?
That's on 164.
Okay.
But kind of to shave it down, so to speak, I think a good analogy of what I'm referring to is done on 165, where it says your relationship with your pet is a secure role model. So Susan Phillips, who is a co-author of the book Healing Together, describes our connection with pets as a source of inspiration for our romantic relationships. In her writing, she points out that we tend to perceive our pets as selfless and loving despite their many misdemeanors. They wake us up at night, destroy our valuables, and demand our undivided attention. Yet we tend to overlook these behaviours and feel positively towards them. In fact, our connection with our pets is an excellent example of a secure presence in our life. We can tap into our attitudes towards our pets as a secure resource within us. We don't assume our pets are doing these things purposely to hurt us. We don't hold grudges even when they eat something they shouldn't or make a mess. We still greet them warmly when we come home, even after a rough day at the office, and we stick by them no matter what. I think that's a good comparison in terms of having a secure role model and being able to kind of see, like certain times when you're in a relationship with your partner and you have a bad day at the office and you tend to talk to them and you tend to take it out on them. Yeah. Whereas you wouldn't do that to your pet.
Well, you would, but you wouldn't. Your pet would just, they can't talk back, but it would take it in. Does that make sense? And sometimes maybe your partner needs to be there and realise this isn't like you. I just need to take this in and realise it's not against me per se.
Yeah, definitely.
Does that make sense?
Definitely. But even still, like, to reverse that, you wouldn't walk in. Well, actually, I can't say everyone. Yeah. You might get people that walk in and start kicking the shit out of their dogs after a hard day's work. But yeah, your average good person, positive person, they maybe feel upset, but they wouldn't come in and start doing, like, shouting at their pets for no good reasons. You know what I mean? Like
you come in and your pets is almost like your sanctuary. Like, I'm coming from a hard day, and at least I've got
I've got you, or
it or whoever at home or whatever, innit?
Yeah. So, what we remember today of our past is in fact a product of editing and reshaping what occurs over the years, and whenever we recall that particular memory. In other words, our current experiences shape our views of our past ones. By creating our own attachment inventory, you re-examine your recollections of past relationship experiences from a new perspective. So, looking back on your own transgressions or relationships, had your opinion changed on the outlook or particular scenarios since reading through this book thus far?
100. I think, have I touched on this? I can't remember. I'm sure I must have. 100%.
Yeah.
That is my answer. 100%. Was it last week's episode I touched on it? About the relationship I was in and how...
Yes, it was, yes. And you gave an example, yes, of one in particular. And then now you understand...
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I definitely remember that.
Exactly. So 100%. This, as I said, I visited a good friend of mine earlier this week. I'm not going to put her name out, but she loves the podcast. She's actually read the book twice over, and she's only had it about 2 or 3 weeks. And what she was saying to me is, this book, she never quite understood why she would have certain thoughts or behave in certain ways, or why she would be in a certain way with her partner, or vice versa. And this book has helped her to realise that she's not crazy, or she's not wild or whatever, and the fact that there is a name or a description for how she thinks and feels sometimes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
it's the same thing that it's done for me when I've evaluated a relationship I've been in the past. And it will definitely help me going forward if I met someone and I kind of could put a kind of relationship style or trait on them and understand how to work better to get the best out of them for us if we really wanted to make it work. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, P, towards to French's question?
Has
this book kind of changed your opinion? And
yeah,
so far?
Yeah, it has. I mean, I think obviously probably prior to kind of reading the book, I think my thoughts were that I'd probably become obviously a bit more comfortable with myself, but maybe in reflection, and I'm actually thinking as you're kind of speaking as well, there's probably times when I haven't really taken other people's, not necessarily their feelings as in I was being selfish, but their actual thought process maybe into consideration, because there's been times when I've been having conversations about my relationships obviously with other people, and these people, and they obviously in it kind of feeding back to them, and not in any kind of sinister way, they've kind of asked, why have you had this conversation with this person kind of thing, and they felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, no, I'm now like kind of thinking, you know what, well, I'm kind of thinking obviously I probably haven't taken some people's thought process, as I said, probably into consideration at times.
French, same like you, bro.
Yeah, no, definitely. As I just kind of said it in my last example in regards to like being able to look back at past relationships and realizing that either my behaviors or my partner behaviors is down to certain obviously attachment styles and how they affect us. So yeah, 100%. It's definitely, since reading the book, I can look at many scenarios on a day-to-day scenario. I can meet someone and within 5 to 10 minutes I could kind of start seeing signs of whether they're secure, avoidant or anxious, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's definitely beneficial for me personally.
Question to our listeners, to those, you might not have the book, but you might have heard enough of the podcast to kind of have formed an opinion on previous relationships and a relationship you're in, as to the relationship attachment styles that were involved in your relationships. If you had the knowledge then that you have now from listening to the podcast or reading the book, do you think the relationships you were in might have gone differently? Do you think it would have helped or perhaps even hindered your relationships? Get back to us, let us know. Always interesting to have other people's views.
Just to kind of touch on it, I think it's something, I mean, we don't have to delve into it now, but it's more of a personal thing to do. But I think the book gives you a tool to kind of help kind of look back on past scenarios and situations that you've had in relationships. It's called the relationship inventory. And basically you fill it out, you put down the name of the partner, you explain what the relationship was like and what reoccurring patterns happened. Then you think of a situation that triggered the activation or deactivation attachment style. Then you go on to talk about your thoughts and feelings at that time. And basically you end up identifying how you could have made that situation better, or if that situation sort of arise, how you'd be able to deal with it. in a much more
What page is that on for listeners French?
Beneficial manner. It's on page 168 across to 169
in the book.
In the book, but then it goes on to ask you a few questions, so you kind of get a summarizing of your inventory, relationship inventory, basically. But yeah, as I said, I think it's a good tool if you guys can. In a relationship and think that you need to use it, then I definitely think it would be beneficial.
Got you. Is it the same? It wouldn't happen to be the same one because there's in the book there's an example.
Yeah, I think
of Henry or Georgina.
Yes, that's exactly where we was going to go to next.
Excellent.
Actually, so yeah, that's in regards to Georgina and Henry.
Okay.
The text message that saved the day.
Okay, you got a bit of a synopsis for us in the story, French.
Let's see.
Page 177 in the book for you guys listening on the podcast. Henry and Georgina.
I don't really have a.
I'm sure it's something to do with either they're both working, someone's working during the day, and there's not enough communication. Something to do with that. And it was just about. I think it's just about the need for a text message to help reassure.
It was a case of, as you said, communication and the reassurance. I mean, you sounded like you more.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much what it is.
Right,
I didn't want to go into too much depth, but basically, it's a case where Henry's with Georgina. Henry's an avoidant. Georgina is someone who's anxious, and Henry might be at work during the day. Georgina, she might just want to hear from Henry. She might just want to give him a call. How's your day going? Whatever. She just needs that reassurance, that communication. She'd call him. He wouldn't respond. Or he wouldn't answer, wouldn't respond to voicemails. That left Georgina feeling more and more agitated, more anxious. She'll call again, same thing. They kind of filled out the kind of table which French was making reference to, and it kind of details what the issue is and how it would help to quell those feelings of anxiety which come up. And the same thing from Henry on his point of view, being an avoidant. Why is it that like he might see the missed call and can't get back to her, but actually he's not making a solid effort to respond? And it might be that Henry actually can't get to the phone, and he just realises it might be a case where, you know, the boy or the girl who cried wolf, in that, what does she want? She really doesn't want anything. So actually, me not returning the call, she doesn't want anything. It's not a big deal. So, like, from the kind of diagnosis from the table, it turns out all she really needs is reassurance, i.e. a text message to say, thinking about you, or saw your missed call, busy. And that actually, from Henry's point of view, that would stop all the missed calls. Pox, sorry, what was you gonna...
No. I mean, I wasn't too sure whether this is actually on topic as such. I mean, I remember having this conversation or hearing something before. Like, how often do you believe that you need to actually have contact with your partner? Each day? Do you feel the need to?
If I'm in a committed relationship with someone, I feel like... I hate using this word normal because it's such a kind of... There's normal... Everything's different. Every relationship.
Yeah,
different.
what is your normal?
But my normal, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. My normal is on a daily basis. Even if it's like if I'm living with them, well, you're gonna speak to them every day. But if you're not living with them, but you're in a relationship, I want to know how my partner's day's been. I don't know about you guys. I actually want to know, like, how's your day been? Like.
See, I mean, that's not the reason why I brought it up as such, but I mean, like...
Are you talking about how many times you're in the day?
Maybe that might even be a better question.
I think the question I was going to run with, because in regards to that scenario and the whole pre-written message thing, I've been in a relationship where that has kind of come to the forefront, where it was like, you're not messaging me enough in a day, or you're not saying certain things in the time. So it got to a point where, yes, I used the whole let's have a pre-written message, and it was I'm thinking of you. I had it in like my notes. I would go copy and paste it, put in a message at any given moment, send it off. But for me, it's like I still got needle for that, because how many times can you send that message without being told that there's no effort involved? You're just sending me a cut and paste message.
But every day's different, bro. How can it be a cut and paste message? That is a little bit out of order in my opinion.
But that's the solution, though.
Fair enough. I don't think there'll be actually Do you know what I mean?
But that's the solution.
Okay, you can say, how's your day going on one day? The next day you say like...
So you have a series of cut and pastes.
You sound, you know...
It's not personal enough for me.
Yeah, I know.
That's what it is. It's not personal enough for me.
What do you mean? I'm thinking of you. That's personal.
But
that's personal.
No, it is. But you said that's the solution.
That is a solution.
I don't think it's...
That says it in the book, though. That is a solution. What was the last thing that you said? For Henry, the solution is for him to message and say, "I'm thinking of you," or something like that.
No, that's the example I gave.
Yeah, and that's in the book.
In the book, what I'm saying is the main thing is Georgia, getting that reassurance that Henry is available if needs be. That's all she really requires.
And whether that's a message saying, "I'm thinking of you,"
whether that's a message saying, "I'm thinking of you," or that's a message to say, "Hope everything's going okay at home," or how did things go earlier?
Look at your face.
No.
You sound like you're clocking in. Clocked in. Ain't go there for another 2-3 hours.
This guy.
Look at his face as he's swearing, and he knows what he's doing.
Gosh.
No, but then if you say, how's your day going? You're open to a conversation. If you ain't got the time to have that conversation...
No, you don't. You just say, hope your day's going okay.
Yeah.
Dot.
Exactly. And you can cut and paste that.
So you can say that every day? What, are you a robot?
You can have a good 5 to 6 of them just on rotation.
Taking the piss.
I know, I was thinking the same thing. I just haven't said it yet.
Bro, you're telling me when you get in the evening, yeah, and you talk that evening, and she says, tomorrow, we've got a new starter and I've got to show him around the office. So the next day it might be like, hope it went okay showing such and such.
Honestly,
that's what I'm trying to make it a bit more personal.
Yeah, it's not going to be a romantic Monday, this is this. But
the way you made it sound, but I'm going to let you
film that I watched the other day on Film 4 with a robot woman. There was one on the other day, this Ex Mechanica. That's what he is, boy. Is that what it's called? Ex Mechanica.
No idea.
They're robots.
Might as well be
robots with human flesh. Jesus.
Obviously, it wouldn't be that deep to the point where I'm gonna be doing that every single day. But my point being is, if your partner's always needing that reassurance of I'm thinking of like all the time. How many times can you always be saying these things without it's almost like, okay, you're just saying it for saying its sake?
Do you know what? Yeah, but I think the point is...
No, I get the point. I'm just causing the argument for the sake of it as well. Yeah. No, I do. I genuinely get the point.
Sounded like an avoidant, which you are.
You're telling me you don't really want to speak to her from your partner during the day?
No, but that was what I'd done previously. Like, this is something...
You've done the cut and paste thing?
Yeah.
Mace, you didn't hear that sound like an experienced man? That's why I said look at his face. He's been here before.
Jesus Christ.
Cut and paste. I was looking at him thinking, he's really done that.
You're not demonising me now, man. I just told you that's what it was in a previous relationship. I'm a changed man.
Guys at home, you're listening to Fully Booked. Mace, myself, French to my right, and Poco in the studio as well. Oh gosh, we're on chapter 3, guys. We're on chapter 3 of the book Attached, part 3, sorry, when attachment styles clash, and we're looking at the anxious avoidant trap. There's something else. The toothpaste incident.
Sam and Grace, the toothpaste incident.
Yeah. Fox, I'm going to get you to kind of divulge into this one, because I think this one's quite interesting. Those at home, page 183 in the book, but just listen with us. Fox will give us a brief description of the scenario with Sam and Grace and the toothpaste incident. In his own time.
Okay, no. I just have to go run through it very quickly. I can't remember which individual it was, but I think they obviously moved in together.
Okay.
They moved in, Sam and Grace. No, I didn't know which individual. Sam and Grace moved in together.
They're in New York, right?
They're in New York, that's correct, yeah. So they moved in together. And I think
how long have they been together?
I'm not too sure. I think I saw something like 2 years. Yeah, over 2 years.
Real people. They're not real people.
Yeah, so they've been together for over 2 years, and obviously they've taken a step, obviously, to move in together. I think the issues they're finding out together, obviously as a couple, is that they're both a little bit uncomfortable with their, I don't want to say maybe their personal space, or some, not personal space necessarily, but small little tidbits in their relationship, such as obviously the toothpaste incident, where one likes it maybe squeezed and the other one likes it rolled and stuff like that. But that's just been a little bit general. But it's the kind of question that's been posed out is what kind of things are you comfortable or uncomfortable obviously with your partner doing obviously in your relationship if you've actually moved in together? Or just in general, actually.
French?
What peeves would set me off? I don't know, like leaving the hair in the sink, like things like that. That for me would kind of do my nut.
Experienced man talking here.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's one of my ones. Hair everywhere, like everywhere. Like you're shedding.
Okay, cool. I can understand. I mean, not in reflection.
It's a pet peeve. It's not like a big deal. It's not like
cool. No, I think it's important you actually highlight that.
I'm just saying. I said it's a pet peeve. It's something I could live with because you have to get on with it. But
you know what?
If I had to say one, that would be one of them. Yeah.
I mean, I know we spoke about compromise quite a bit in this episode, if you want to call it that. I'm quite comfortable with.
It is.
Yeah. No. I was gonna say podcast. I wasn't too sure which both they are. Cool. So I'm quite comfortable. Not comfortable. I'm quite understanding. I think that's probably a better word with stuff like that. In that, I've lived with. I don't want to say several. Yeah, I've lived with several people in loads of different scenarios. So I'm very much in the know that females or even males will. I don't want to say shed hair as such, but you might find bits and pieces of hair, obviously in the sink, in the shower.
Other things would you find?
I'm hoping you ain't gonna find too much else other than hair. Alright, so that's why I've kind of left it at hair, and that's what was gonna lead me on to my next point.
I've said when we give a next one, man. I said that.
Okay, cool.
On my thing.
Yeah, no. Okay, so when we start talking, or when we're kind of like moving out the sphere of hair, and we're talking about.
Listen, this is fully booked, yeah, and outside of this environment, when you talking about pure nastiness going on, so don't try and shed that from the listeners now.
What at uni?
Nah, you're just talking in general. Oh my god, my mind's gone a little bit blank at this moment in time. I just don't like nastiness is a very blanket statement.
You think on it. What about you, miss?
Do you know what? I think personally, we've kind of missed the part. I don't think the main thing is like I think the toothpaste thing in this Sam and Grace story was kind of the thing that was the trigger point.
Yeah,
was a trigger point. But I think the whole thing was. Grace moving into Sam's space and Sam not knowing how to adapt to that, and Grace feeling like she's a stranger in what is now her own apartment. And I think that's what the main thing was. And the toothpaste thing was the kind of trigger where something got said.
Yeah.
And they kind of
the solution being the buffer zone, which had acted out it was almost like a placebo effect, where it was there, but they didn't actually end up using it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what and how they got to that point was using the relationship inventory, and that works by highlighting one's own actions in reflection. And through both of their efforts, they're able to generate an idea that worked for both, which in the end brought them closer.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess make becoming secure an ongoing growth process, and use the relationship inventory to help that.
Do you know what was interesting as well? At the moment, so obviously the toothpaste incident occurred. She's squeezing from the middle. He's rolling or whatever. Anyway, but the moment Grace felt like she was a stranger in Sam's place, and she kind of sought out alternative accommodation, Sam was like, actually.
No, he was glad, but then again, I guess subconsciously he was thinking, shit, like
she's got an alternative now.
Yeah.
And then he was like, you know, actually, we need to sit down and talk about this, and we need to just work it out, because actually, the things the disagreements and things that are causing this kind of friction in our relationship are minor things. Compromise is what's important. I mean, it's toothpaste. It's one conversation, but have two separate toothpastes.
Yeah.
If that is, you know what I mean? It's not like toothpaste costs an arm and a leg.
Yeah. No, exactly. Again, that being down to compromise.
Mm-hmm. But just sorry, Pete, I didn't mean to try to duck your question. Things that really irritate me. There's not really a lot that irritates me. I'm clean. Let's just put it that way. And if you're not clean, I'm clean. Let's just put it that way. I like clean things, man. I don't like living in squalor. That's my thing.
Squalor them.
Moving on.
So, there's a lady. it goes further on into the book past the toothpaste incident. A lady named Sue Johnson, who's the founder of emotionally focused therapy, and she has demonstrated through her clinical work and writings that creating true security in a relationship and recognizing that you are emotionally dependent on your partner on every level is the best way to improve your romantic bond. Is that something that you would agree with?
Yeah, and it's scary. It can be scary. Emotionally letting yourself go to someone can be a scary thing. But I do agree. What's her name? Sue what?
Sue Johnson.
Is that in this book? What page is that on, French?
I don't remember the name.
Sue
I
Johnson.
remember the page, but it's definitely in there.
Yeah, but letting yourself is one of the hardest things. Well, for me, literally, is letting myself go emotionally completely with a partner, because you're literally saying, "Here you go."
I think it's incredible.
Yeah, you're literally saying, "Here you go. I trust you enough. You ain't gonna basically fuck me over." If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard. It is hard, because if you've kind of been burnt before, you kind of there's always a kind of a one bit of you that's like, "Well, I ain't gonna let it ever affect me like this again." Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it can be scary, but I think it's the best way. It's the only way for me. I feel like I'm quite spiritual, and I feel like it's almost like with a relationship, two become one, and you need to both be on a vibe or a level whereby you fully entwined with one another's emotion. There needs to be an emotional connection. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
For me.
Me, I love it, man. I mean, as you know,
What do
man.
you love?
No, I mean,
I love it, man.
I love it. I love
Man
it.
stood up, sat down.
Yeah, I had to.
I love it, man.
I love it. Honestly, I
You
mean,
love what?
No, the possibility of obviously taking your relationship like emotionally to another level. I mean, a case of literally, I don't want to say handing over or being very, very open, but me personally, I think in being very, very open, I think you then open up the possibility of loads of different type of conversations. It's almost like a matrix. Such as, okay, this sounds very generic, but like, what makes you scared, or why does this happen, or why does that happen, or then you end up talking about family, and then you can probably kind of find out actually why this person has this attachment style, and then you get to find out people's views on it. Could be life, society, and all those small little tidbits. I mean, I love those type of conversations. I mean, obviously between us three or the listeners, I'm an Uber driver, right? Or a part-time Uber driver, right? So in actually being an Uber driver, I'm not fussing people. No, it's not a big deal, all right? In being in so I have loads of different type of conversations, week in, week out kind of thing, or day in, day out, dare I say. And I love the type of conversation we have. You know what I'm saying? In that it goes to loads of different levels. It can go potentially to loads of different levels. So I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy conversation. I think I think in your relationship.
Would you think it's a fair comment to say you have to be extremely good friends to sustain a happy and vibrant relationship?
I like to
either best of friends or extremely good friends. As in being able to talk and read. I think you have to be able to talk to open up. Yes or no?
I hope so. So that's the question. So I mean, yeah, I like to believe so. I mean, I know the phrase or the term has been coined before in terms of like saying your partner's your best friend and stuff like that. I would like to believe. I mean, if you're knee deep in a relationship, that person who you're speaking to, because you're more often than not, I mean, guys can lie if they want to. I mean, more often than not, guys, they open up to females in regards to this. Some of the difficult conversations. They may not talk to their guys as such, but they talk to females about it. Listen, I love those type of conversations. I don't feel vulnerable in those conversations whatsoever. Once upon a time, yeah, Anxious Andrew would have felt difficult. Like,
That's your new nickname.
Not Pops no more.
Yeah, I found it difficult, you know, getting into those conversations. And it's funny because I know we spoke about this before. Once upon a time, obviously, when we were a little bit younger, and dare I say in our uni days, obviously a lot of guys, I don't want to say like guys who, I don't even like using the word romance and all that type of stuff. A lot of people are very
I do, but
a lot of them feel comfortable like getting themselves into conversation and saying like I love you and all that type of stuff. Or even saying I've kissed that girl and all them type of madness there. Whereas obviously we've all grown up now. I'm not at uni anymore. I'm quite comfortable getting into conversations, saying what makes me vulnerable, what makes me strong, what makes me fearful. Those things, I don't think they make you weaker. I think they make you stronger in the fact that you're kind of owning your, dare I say, if they are weaknesses in some way, shape or form.
Okay.
And together you can be stronger.
Good points. And do you know what? Yeah, you made reference to something in there, and it resonated with me. It was not with me personally, but it was a statement that I've seen in relationships, and it was something about how roadmen, or which you don't want to label them, but for lack of a better term or reference of words, how they open up or sorry, like not open up. But what I know just from people around me that have females that are friends around me, I think one of the reasons, I'm sure you lot have been younger.
I hope so.
Yeah, no.
We got pure funny man in the studio tonight.
Benjamin Button.
Alright, listen. I'm sure when you've been younger and you might have a female friend or something, and she's dating someone, you're like, he treats her like shit. Why is she with her? Or whatever. There might be a female who she's with a road man. She gets treated like absolute doo doo, and it's like, what? Like she still sticks around. She can't help it. I think part of that, you raised a valid point, because a road man might open up deeply to his female partner, and she feels like she feels special because of that. She's seeing his emotional side. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And because of that, it's like, yeah, but I know him, like you lot don't. Because on the roadside, he's that guy. Do you know what I'm saying? But back in the home, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's proper lovey-dovey and them things there. Interesting points, man. Interesting points. French, on to you, mate. No. Question, bro. Question. You haven't got. Do you think it is important in a relationship to be either A, kind of best friends, or B, you have to be extremely close and good friends?
100%. Definitely. Especially now, like, again, the power of knowledge and being aware, reading. I think definitely now, I would definitely have to be, my partner would have to be my best friend.
And would that help you as well to open up emotionally?
Yeah, 100%. Of course, because as close as I am with like my boys, who I consider my brothers, as like we can have an open conversation in this forum right here and now,
and we're not going to judge each other.
Do you know what I mean? So I can
might laugh at each other's expense.
Yeah, no, of course. That's one thing, but do you know what I mean? It's a space where you can address certain issues, whether it's in the past or things that you're going through now, or you may feel a certain way about certain somethings. So you would want that within your partner, where you can have that dialogue and that conversation to the point where you can open up and feel comfortable, and not feel like you're gonna have there's gonna be some vulnerability to it, but it's not a case of I'm ashamed, I'm not gonna say it. You feel comfortable enough to address it. So yeah, no, 100% do believe that.
Okay, cool. Same to you listeners at home, really. Is it important that you and your partner are best of friends? And does that help to sustain and maintain a healthy and happy relationship, and one in which there is an emotional connection? Yeah.
Jumping forward in regards to the anxious and avoidant trap and everything that's associated with it. There's a subsection saying, what if the goal of security is not reached? And I do think this is a good section for anyone that's currently struggling in a relationship now. So what happens if, despite your efforts to move your relationship away from the trap and the vicious insecure cycle, you're unable to do so? I was going to ask, how long, if you was in such a scenario, how long would you wait or continue before calling it a day, or even seeking outside help?
You're looking at me because
I'm just because you're in
your
you're
line of sight.
Yeah, literally.
Well, the last person I gave them about 4 months.
Okay.
But as I said, that was before this book.
Yeah.
I hadn't experienced a relationship with someone like that before, and to me it was a bit too intense, a bit too full on, and things that we would bicker or argue over, to me, were just non-relevant. But I hadn't read this book. And they were anxious. And in my head, now, even at the time, I knew, I said, you know what? If I was at a certain point in my life, I could actually make this work. But it would take a lot. And that was without understanding from this book. Does that make sense? But I knew I could make it work. I knew there was insecurities there. But now I've read this book, I think I would be able to make that relationship work a lot more easier. But obviously at the time I didn't know about this book, and I just thought, right now I'm at this point in my life, I'm not willing. We're still early doors in relationship, remember? So I wasn't willing to put in the work required for that relationship. It would need a lot of solid foundation and groundwork to help secure the relationship going forward from the other person's side, and make them more ensure. It's almost set up like a process where I'm constantly keeping them reassured, which I don't mind doing. If I'm really into the partner, I know they're into me. But I knew at the time I wasn't ready for that. It was very intense, and it wasn't what I was used to. So I gave that about 4 months. But going forwards, having read this book, I would say I would try my best in it. As you guys know me very well, yeah, and you know that if I'm getting involved into something with someone in terms of like a relationship or starting off something, I'm not thinking short term. You might know me like that anyway. I'm not thinking short term. I'm thinking, where can this go? So I'm not gonna just willy nilly kind of just knock it on the head. Do you know what I'm saying? I'll give it a go, and then I don't think there's a time that I can put on it. But if I really felt like it couldn't work, it's not gonna work.
What about you, P?
You know, I think that's a great question actually. I mean, because funny enough, like from the title of that part there, just to the left of it, or certainly on my app, it goes, when you build a secure relationship, both individuals win. So kind of like some of the things that I was thinking of were, I've got a friend who recently went to, I don't want to divulge everything, went to certain lengths in order to obviously save his relationship, in terms of he went to seek actually outside help. And then in speaking to him, he was saying, truth be told, he knew the answers to these questions. He knew the answers to them, but maybe he wanted someone else to clarify them actually for him.
What, the answers or the questions?
The question. So I'm trying to think without saying too much. The question of why he does this or why he does that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, but I was just saying to
clarify. I felt I needed to say it out loud in order to know. So he felt he needed outside assistance in order to clarify those questions. I think that's exactly what I said. But then there's me sitting there and thinking to myself, like, okay, if I'm in a relationship, I mean, I'm prepared to give it time, but I mean, I think if I'm in a relationship and you potentially know this person is not going to be your best friend as such, or you know there's potentially going to be something slightly better out there, in that you're going to find there's potentially a better relationship where the secure levels will be reached, then are you just sitting in a stagnant relationship?
So how long would you give it? So as soon as you realise that, would you say this isn't for me? Or how, that's what I'm saying. It's about breaking away. How would you know when, and how would you break away?
Jesus Christ!
It's not easy to break away. Sometimes, even if you know long term it's not going to work. Say for instance you're in a relationship which you know just doesn't feel right, but actually there's no arguments or bickering. Do you know what I'm saying? But it just on a connection level it can't get deep. Like, how do you break away from it? It's not easy, bro. Sometimes. I'm telling you it's not easy.
I know.
Man said it. It's out there. Yeah, the front is no, bro. Calm it. But that's none of my business.
I was gonna have a sip of water actually.
To lie.
Anyway, understanding that your continual arguments actually have a hidden subtext to them, that they genuinely are irresolvable, changes your perception of your own role dramatically. Once you understand that your partner will always find areas of contention as a way of maintaining distance, and that she or he will always need to withdraw, no matter whom she or he is with, you will no longer blame yourself for the relationship problems.
I like that.
Is there anything that you can't or won't change about yourself in a relationship, and have you had to explain why, if that is the case?
Yeah. I've got certain morals and values that sit with me, and I'm willing to take on and listen to other people's opinions and thought processes and certain kind of and where they sit in terms of their moral compass. But one of the things that's important to me in a relationship is our moral compass has to marry up. Because if your moral compass's face is due south, and there's certain things on there that don't sit right with me, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Me and you's not.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I get that, 100%.
That's one of the things. There's certain That's not. I'm not willing to kind of compromise on that for sure, man. I'm trying to think of like a relevant example. Like, I don't know, say you're dating someone and they think a certain type of ethnic background are just bums or just something like that. Like that don't sit right with me. You don't know people's upbringings or whatever. Like just little things. It's not even little. It's big things. But it's like there's certain things. If you're a thought person, you need to understand. If you are not willing to like realize where someone's come from, but you're just gonna judge them on the surface or face of things, I can't relate to you. For me, I got to date someone that's open-minded, that's willing to like listen to people no matter what they look like, where they're from. Do you get what I'm saying? All these things are important. It helps to shape you. For me, It helps to shape you as an individual. It helps to make you well-rounded. It helps you to develop yourself. In my opinion, there's other things as well. This is what just comes to mind.
I get that.
So that's me. That's me. There's certain values and morals, and if they don't rest, if what I feel and what you feel are complete opposites, it's not gonna work for me. It's not gonna.
You know, I couldn't really add to that. I think you said that very well. When his values, I think, are very, very important to me.
I was more referring to like, I mean, I think
You're saying everyone would...
I think everyone would be like that, like in terms of morals, values. But what I was more referring to was the certain things that you wouldn't change about yourself in the relationship. Like not yourself as you as an individual. Like how your principles are your principles, regardless if you're in a relationship or not. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm talking about, is there certain things that you would or wouldn't, or you'll be willing or willing not to?
Give me an example where you've been seeing someone in a relationship and they've said, "I really don't like this about you. Can you change it?"
Me wanting space. Like as I said previously, I like to have my own time and my own space, and that's something I wouldn't change. Like I do, it's something I personally need, and if I'm in a relationship, they would have to respect that. I'm not gonna say that it's an encroachment on privacy or none of that shit. It's just a case of there are times I genuinely need to be by myself. Like, do you know what I mean?
What does space mean to you? Is there a time frame on that? And what is it? Does it mean as in not in the same? Does it mean not in the same physical location?
No, we could be next to each other, so to speak. But I'm just in my own. I could be reading a book in my own zone, or we could be in the same house and I'm just over there in the garden. Would you know what I mean? I just need a bit of just me time, just personal space, personal time.
Fine.
And cool, like we can kick it after whatever, whatnot. But that's something I need to do. We can't be stuck to each other like glue 24/7. Like some people like that.
Some people like that.
No, but that's absolutely fine. But what I couldn't compromise in a relationship is that for me. That's me personally, and I'm asking, what's in the relationship? Is there anything that you wouldn't be able to change, or would you be willing to compromise on every single thing?
I can't think off the top of my head at the moment.
I can't as well, but I think what you said in regards to personal space. So personal space, is that the word you used?
Just
not personal
space.
space.
Just
space. Space. And I think that was a good one really, because although like I'll use the word space, is kind of like it goes into that kind of like avoidant realm. I don't think what you're saying is in regards to actually being avoidant. I think sometimes people just need their own space to kind of either collect their thoughts or just want to be alone for a moment or so, you know what I mean? So I kind of like agree with that. I'm trying to think whether that is something that I need as such. I think everyone needs a bit, I believe everyone needs a bit of space at some point in time. Whether that is a thing for me, I'm unsure at this moment in time. I'm a little bit unsure. But I can't think of anything off the top of my head really that comes to mind. But I think I'm willing to compromise on a lot of things. But there might be the odd things such as that space that I think, you know what, I think the person has to respect that. That's just my personal opinion. I think if the person loves you, I think the person's honestly got to respect it.
Would I be meant to compromise in a relationship, or wouldn't be?
Sure, is there anything else from you? Apart from space?
Well, I've given one. I think you guys should give one each as well. I'm just going to start licking them down and be like, alright, cool, this is it and this is that.
Alright, so I think some of the things that can't, say like in a relationship, some people might have hobbies or something like that. I think that's one of the most general things. Okay. They play football twice a week, or go gym 4 times a week. In the evenings.
Okay.
So that's the kind of thing. I'm not that guy, but
I was going to ask.
You know I'm not good. But I think that's the kind of thing that this relates to.
Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, it's a possibility.
Whether it's going out, you might go out drinking with your lads twice a week or what.
Yeah, if that's something that you need to do, regardless if you're in a relationship or not, is that something? Could you compromise that?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not that type of guy anyway. But
I'm asking this for you as an individual. Is there anything that you can think of?
Alright, so you lot know that I like to do my little vacations abroad.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm willing. In terms of me, because I'll go. For the people, I'll go abroad by myself. I don't mind, innit? I'll go with my people and I'll go abroad. But in terms of going abroad by myself, more than happy to compromise. And you know what I'm saying? Hopefully, you're going to be attracted to someone who's going to be into that kind of stuff. Because if you're not, if you're going to stay in England all day, I'm not with you. But at the same time, I've just hit the nail on the head. I'm willing to compromise on me not going away, but I'm not willing to compromise on me taking a number of vacations throughout the year, because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's
So
what helps
that
to
would
keep
be
me.
you.
That's how it keeps me in line, keeps me sane, keeps me like, almost, it refreshes me. So I'm not. If my partner says, I only like going away once every 2 years, it's not. I'm sorry. I'm still going, and I'll go with or without you. But hopefully, it won't be. You know what I'm saying, it'll be a case where
I'll get you.
So that's something I'm not willing to compromise on, because that's what I like to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think that's a good one. P.
Well, on the gym thing, if you
I still.
no, I was saying, if you like Pox Tubby and with high blood pressure, then then you've got me there. But nah, honestly, I'm thinking sitting like void like I was gonna say this a bit. It's not childish as such, because it is quite serious. But me going gym, very similar to the space. Obviously, you take it serious. What else is there? Like going out with your boys, or spending time with your boys.
What about, bro? Alright, at the moment, yeah, you said you're doing a part-time Uber thing. I know there's about one or two other commitments. You're constantly busy with your time.
Yes.
So what about your time? Compromising your time. If you started to get involved with someone now, would you compromise your time?
100%. I'm happy to compromise my time.
You sure?
Because
time isn't money, but time can, like, you can see the link.
Let me say
so basically, you're subsidizing money to spend time with someone.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad you said that.
So would you be willing to compromise that?
Yes, I believe so. And the reason why I say that is because there are times when, like, I tell people this all the time, sleeping is really, really important to me. And people may laugh in the background. Because some people literally, I have 4 hours. I don't do this 4 hours. I'm not doing that 4 hours sleep. Sleeping 8 hours, potentially even 9 hours, sounds bonkers, is really, really important to me. So I could be Uber driving, for example, maybe tonight or another night as such. And the moment it hits a certain time, the moment I yawn once, I'm going bed, mate. I'm going home and I'm sleeping. And in fact, it doesn't even matter if I yawn. Alright, if I've got to be up a certain time, I'm making sure I get those hours sleep. So in relation to our relationship, I know our relationship needs time in order for it to grow, in order to have that spiritual connection and stuff like that, and just to enjoy moments as such. That needs time. So I'm happy to compromise that time. So whether that's money, dare I say, I love football, whether it's football, and whether it's other bits and pieces, you know what I'm saying? It's all got to fit in.
Where's the sleep thing coming to it?
I don't know. But that's me. I'll digress. I'll digress.
I think you was just saying that basically money is not like sleep. You're willing to compromise money for sleep.
Yes, that's what I was
It's
saying.
the same thing with the relationship.
Thank you.
Alright, cool. Skipping along happily. When abnormal becomes the norm, an attachment guide to breaking up. Unless there's anything else that you wanted to jump in before.
There's a story in the book. Maybe the listeners at home, if they've got the book, can read through it. There's a story with is it Stan or someone like that? I know it's quite a long story. Alana, Stan.
Oh, Stan and Alana.
Yeah, it's a story to do with, because obviously the chapter we're covering is about getting caught in the anxious avoidant trap in a relationship. And Stan and Alana have a story on page 190, which goes all the way through to I think about 192, 193. I think 192. And it's like they get married, but Stan basically treats her like absolute crap. And it's so late in the day that Alana realizes that there's more out there. And it's this story. If you want a story on the anxious avoidant trap, we'd suggest you really read through that one, because it really covers and goes into detail on not what you can expect, but how the anxious avoidant trap happens, and how, and leading on to what French is going to come on to, when abnormal becomes normal, in that you slide into a pattern and you don't even realize this is not normal, but it becomes normal because it's day in, day out. You don't know any better after a while. What is it? There's like a rule. If you do something a number of times, it becomes habit. Habit. Yeah, it's similar to that.
I remember we had this conversation before, like just kind of like off camera or anyway. Where like I've said before, like I don't know how some people, and this is not to cause any offense in any way, shape or form. I've always wondered how people find themselves in relationships like where they're I was going to say something a little bit offensive. Where they're with someone and they've got 2 kids and it just sounds all I don't know, you might be able to tell me, and it sounds all type of madness. But I mean, obviously the Alana and Stan situation kind of covers that, in that he's what would you say his type of behaviour is towards her?
He's an avoidant, I think, and she's anxious, but he literally doesn't compliment her or go on about ex-girlfriends or go out with his boys to ignore her. He just makes her feel totally rejected.
Are you talking about? That's a different story. Bro.
What, Stan and Alana?
No, it sounds like something.
Stan and Alana, they found some stability via. Stan worked most time weekends. They did on the weekends. They did separate chores and spent very little downtime together. The difficulty arose when Alana would ask to go away on a romantic getaway. Stan always found an excuse for not going. They'd have a huge fight and things would calm down until the next time. She never really grasped that her fights with him were about something much more fundamental than the actual vacation. Instead, they were about a big barrier that he put up between them. That's Stan and Alana.
You told us.
So, can I continue with the story that you are referring to, which is Marsha's story?
Oh, sorry, Marsha and Craig.
Yeah, so let me get into it.
Page 197. Sorry. So, guys, just going back. If you want a story on anxious avoidant relationship and the trap, it's actually Marsha and Craig, Marsha's story, which is on page 197 and goes on for about 3 or 4, actually 5 pages. I beg your pardon. Yeah. And because we broadcast live, we never edit. You're gonna get all of that backdrop. So yeah, you can slate me on the socials for that mistake.
As I said, when abnormal becomes the norm, an attachment guide to breaking up. So Marsha's story, as Meg pointed out. Marsha meets Craig in college. This just give you a bit of backdrop. So Marsha meets Craig in college. On their first date, he brings his friends, which she talks up as a misunderstanding.
Can only be.
A month later, she surprises him at a team practice. He completely ignores her. He says, "Marsha, when we're in the company of other people, I don't think they need to know we're a couple." She feels furious, and cries. They hug and kiss. All is made up. Despite Craig not acknowledging publicly, it's apparent that they are a couple. Several months down the line, she tells her ex that they can't see each other anymore. Mention this to Craig, and he says, "What did you tell your ex that? Why did you tell your ex that? It's still very early and this might not lead to anything." After another couple months, they seem to be on track. He moves into a 1-bed flat. She suggests she moves in. He agrees.
Okay.
However, life with Craig was becoming an emotional roller coaster and finds herself in tears daily. Craig compares her to his ex Ginger, belittles Marsha at every opportunity. There were occasions she would want to break up, but was never able to follow through. He'd tell her that he loves her and she would be convicted that they should be together.
Mm-hmm.
Told her that she...
Convinced?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I may put that down.
Yeah.
Told her every day. Alright, she rationalised his behaviour due to his relationships with his parents, his domineering father. Craig too was forceful. They never met her friends in his presence. She never met her friends in his presence due to her being ridiculed. However, he was very affectionate. They hugged a lot and fell asleep cuddling. Minimal sex, however. Marsha would compensate by saying, "No one else has a perfect relationship. You have to compromise on something." She pressured him into marriage and knew it was a bad decision as soon as he agreed. There was a terrible ring, a terrible honeymoon. And time after time, when she mustered the courage to leave, Craig would convince her to stay. She began fantasizing he would meet someone else and leave because she was afraid she would never find the strength to do it. Upon the last time that she asked for a divorce, she agreed after a few times. Fortunately, Marsha went on to meet someone with whom she has a happy life. That is the backdrop of
Craig
Marsha and Marsha and Craig and Marsha. I think one of the first thoughts that came to me was that what strikes me odd is the fact he continuously belittles her but wants to stay with her, and I think that's more than just being an avoidant.
Yeah, but go on.
Why would you want to be in a relationship with someone constantly putting you down at every chance? But again, as I've noted down, that is actually a rhetorical question. more so than anything.
There's something in this. So we might not have covered it in this podcast, but something in here which about anxious and avoidance we might have skipped over in this chapter, and it says avoidance feel. One of the reasons why he probably wanted to stay with her is because avoidance feel are the most powerful when they know someone depends on them.
Not all avoidance.
Alright, well in this book, it does say a lot of avoidance feel like that.
It is a one of several behaviours or strategies or traits, whatever.
And that could be possibly the reason why he still kept her around. And same from Marsha's side, you know, with anxious people, they get that little bit, they get that little bit of affection, and they think, oh, everything's rosy again, and then they'll take all the rest of the bullshit that comes with it.
I don't know. I mean, like looking at what's his name, Craig. I mean, some of the traits I actually felt were quite high schoolish, and I felt I can kind of relate to them a little bit in that. I didn't necessarily feel comfortable with all my friends necessarily knowing that I like someone or someone I was potentially seeing was around. Does that kind of like make sense? Like, so I could kind of like relate in some way, shape, or form to the way he was feeling. Funny enough, it says he was at uni, innit? Yes, he was a uni student. So
college or something.
Yeah, something like along those lines. So I mean, he was I don't want to say relatively old, but he was like 19, 20ish. I'm going to say anyway. Yeah, so I can kind of understand that type of the way he felt in that he felt uncomfortable. But I mean, some of his behaviours obviously afterwards. I mean, I'm obviously a little bit lost onto some of them as such. I'm actually really stunned that they actually managed to get married at some point. In that, obviously, in order to get to marriage, there's a long way in between that. You're assuming there's a lot of love in between that. So I'm a little bit surprised he got married, or they got married as such.
Did you have any thoughts on the Craig and Marsha story? French.
It's fucked up, isn't it? Yeah. This is about as much as that, really. It's fucked up, man. But it happened, it all ended well. She met someone that she was happy with. Fuck knows what happened to Craig. But yeah, the way he dealt with her is, obviously we can have a laugh about being avoidant, secure and anxious and all that, but then there's just certain things that you just don't do, and it's just not nice to how she's been treated, you know what I mean? So
I think there's quite a few things, I mean, that are quite clear. I mean, I know like his father was mentioned how he was domineering. I mean, and like the fact that he doesn't know how to speak to women, I mean, I think there's a little bit of relationship obviously between the two. I'm not saying
obviously we can say there's some darker, like even to the point where they didn't really have much sex and he just preferred to cuddle and everything.
Yeah.
Clearly there's well, I can't say clearly, but you could assume that there's other issues there as well, do you know what I mean?
Do you think another reason that Marsha stuck around Craig, and indeed she kind of was the one that forced through the proposal of marriage, is because even though Craig can make her feel like absolute shit, but on the flip side of that, when he wants to, he can like actually make her feel happy in an instance.
Yeah, of course.
Which I think is that called the rebound effect? I think it's called the rebound effect in this chapter. I
think that's when they're breaking up though. The rebound effect is more
okay
in terms of going back to where you just was. That's not.
In the actual relationship. Yeah. It's when that explains a lot, because you know what? There's so many occasions, not amongst my male friends, but definitely amongst my female friends, where I had they've broken up with this guy, this, that, and the third, and then what are you up to? Oh, I'm spending the evening such and such, and you just don't ask no questions.
Because you know it's the rebound effect, isn't it? Yeah, definitely.
I don't know, I mean, like obviously not necessarily like continuing on that point, but just like kind of like touching on the fact that obviously he had a dominating father. I mean, obviously he must have shown obviously a bit of vulnerability, or he must have been vulnerable at times obviously with his dad, in the fact that his dad was vulnerable. So it doesn't really surprise me that Go on. Yeah.
You talked.
It doesn't really surprise me that like when with his partner he wasn't necessarily having sex, but he seemed to like cuddle up more often than not. That's just my personal opinion anyway, rather than obviously being really really intimate with her, but at the same time obviously showing a lot of traits in regards to obviously maybe putting her down and all that type of stuff.
Traits of what?
No, in terms of his actions towards her. No, because what we're seeing here is obviously you're seeing a mirror effect. Obviously, what his father did what his father was like with him, and obviously what he's like now, obviously like with his partner.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is the vulnerability in regards to him being vulnerable to his dad. I'm not surprised he then shows that with her. He's portraying it. It's just like a mirror effect.
Alright, now I've connected the dots.
Okay, cool. You make him sound wild. I was thinking, what's going on here?
How you explain it wasn't how.
Okay, cool. Maybe I wasn't really clear at the beginning. So I mean, like a lot of stuff that he's saying. I mean, I'm just looking over here, back through 1 or 2 notes here. I'm looking. People don't need to know we're a couple, and I mean that's madness there. Like, and also I'm seeing here a midget with huge boobs.
That's how he describes it.
Something. Yo, that is madness. You know, there's
midget with huge boobs.
That is bonkers, man. I know there's 1 or 2 other bits and pieces in here as well in regards to obviously saying that.
You sure it's not Bants?
And also there's the fact that obviously I think when she was she speaking to her old partner?
Yeah.
And he was, what did he say to her?
Why did you tell them that we're finished? We're basically, don't tell your ex-boyfriend that there shouldn't be any communication between you because we don't know what's going on with us.
Yeah. That just sounds all types of wild. You know what I'm saying? He definitely seems like a very uncomfortable character.
Oh man.
To kind of bounce on forward, I wanted to kind of go. It was a bit of a segue that you mentioned, the rebound effect, because it goes on to talk about it in further detail, and it explains it as painful as it is to be mistreated by a partner. Severing an attachment bond is even more excruciating. You may understand that rationally that you should leave, but your emotional brain may not yet be ready to make that move. The emotional circuits that make up our attachment system evolved to discourage us from being alone. I'm guessing you have been in that situation, but I was going to ask, has anyone been in that situation and how was it resolved in regards to the rebound effect?
Sorry, in terms of severing bonds, did you say?
Do you know, it's happened to me once where it's happened to me once where I've gone back. I'm trying to go back, and it's obviously the physical thing happens, but through the emotional connection. Whereas it's happened to me a few times where I've gone back because, like, it's the physical thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's why I completely get the rebound effect. I completely see it from a female's perspective as well. When you often hear they slew their guy, this, that, and the third, almost Jeremy Kyle style, rip him to shreds, and the next week they're back in his bed like he's cheated, done this. It's because they know that person can make them feel a certain way, and they can't get that high from anything or anyone else. Or, you know what I'm saying? So it's happened to me once, and I know the feeling, if that makes sense.
No, I get that. What about you, Pete?
I think I've been quite repellent, so I've never really found myself in those type of situations. In that, like, what I find is,
so you're telling me someone who made you feel a certain way, and then maybe also you not necessarily been done, but you've lost contact, and they haven't reached out, but then they've reached out and they want the nook. They might just want the nookie or something. But actually, and you go and get that, but it also makes you feel a certain way.
I 100% get that, but so what I'm kind of referring to, or I don't know if it's slightly moving away from topic, is that I think, I don't say way back when, but I mean when I found myself in those type of situations, my attachment style wasn't necessarily secure, and I think I was really an introvert, so I was I don't know, I mean once it was severed, it was almost as if I ran away from the situation. I'm kind of I'm kind of just saying these things as I'm thinking. I kind of ran away from the situation.
Okay,
so I didn't really.
They tried to pull you back in. That was it. You're gone.
No. I would have jumped back in, but I'm saying like
that's the point.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
the point.
Yeah, I mean I can't think of any I can't think of anything examples off the top of my head, but that's what I would have done.
Okay.
Well, that's what would have happened anyway. And yourself?
Yeah, I have.
Full stop. Full stop.
No, I've done that on purpose. No, I have. I've done the boomerang thing. Like an ex-partner was like, "I like a boomerang," but like, no, because we had a relationship and then it broke down, and then a few after time she would either holler at me or I'd holler at her, and it just became that where we was just kind of not together but seeing each other on occasion, kind of on that rebound effect kind of thing. But for me, it was purely physical, whereas for her, it was physical and emotional.
Yeah.
Like she'll do say certain things that should try and imply something emotional, but I'll just shut it down. Like, no, it's not that. And it wasn't because I'm being heartless, because she severed the relationship in the first place. So now that she wants to kind of get it back, I was like, nope, it's not that. No, my emotional connection with her had diminished, and it was purely physical. And obviously, she wanted that emotional connection. But yeah, that's long gone.
So after the rebound effects, you've got there's a little section of the book which is on page 213. It's about surviving a breakup and how to kind of prevent you from going into that rebound effect where you're going back and forth. And as French just pointed out, almost like a boomerang, which can last however long you guys want it to last, really.
Yeah.
It's like 9 strategies the book suggests using attachment principles, which will help you get through the painful experience of ending a relationship. So one of them is, ask yourself what life is like for you in the inner circle. And it's almost a case of, if you're in a relationship, you're in the rebound effect or the boomerang effect, yeah, and you can't decide whether to just cut all ties or whether you should get fully in knees deep again. Ask yourself, are you being treated like royalty or like the enemy? I mean, in Marsha and Craig's instance, Marsha was being treated like it was Lex Luthor and Superman. It wasn't nice, you know what I'm saying? I mean, she was the enemy. A midget with big tits or something, was just to say pops.
Yeah, that was madness.
That he was calling her and telling her something like
banter.
telling her something like why are you surprised? She's coming to surprise him at a game or a match he's playing. Why are you coming there to surprise me? Build a support network ahead of time. And you know what? I'm not being stereotypical, but one of the things is, this is kind of what females are good at, and I don't know how, because men, generally speaking, I'm generalising.
That's a good point.
At speaking about this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's important because if you know you're going to leave someone, you just left someone, it's important to have your people around you to support you and let you know, people have experienced it, it will get better. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can get through it rather than hitting that rebound effect. Do you want to go on to the next one, P? Maybe not.
Finding a comforting, supportive place to stay for the first few nights. I think that's quite self-explanatory. Get your attachment needs met in other ways. So recruiting support from your network. Yeah, and seeking diversions, like going to a new workout class at the gym, or checking out the latest pop-up bar in Central, or whatever it may be. Just kind of take your mind off things and do something different. Another one being, don't be ashamed if you slip up and go back to the scene of the crime. So it does explain, obviously you're better off not re-establishing contact with your ex, but if you do end up going back there,
don't dwell on it.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world.
Don't dwell on it.
What I mean? It happens, everyone does it, but there are other things, strategies to help you get along. Another one being, if you're having a hard time, don't feel guilty. Remember, the pain is real. And again, having your friends around you to kind of tell you that, yeah, you are in pain, but it is okay to feel you've got this pain, because we do go through it as well.
When you get flooded with positive memories, ask a close friend for a reality check. So obviously, if you're with someone, there's always going to be a period in that relationship you're going to have happy memories of. And the thing is, and I've said this to myself before, and I think I might have said to you, P, if you know something's not working, it's not going to work. I know it's going to sound horrible and harsh, but try and think of the reasons why you know that, rather than the reasons why you should stay. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, because that's what is important. If you just remind yourself of the 10% of good times, it's 90% of bad times, you're going to want to go back. Try and remember, this is why it would never have worked, or this is why it didn't work.
That was the reason why it didn't work.
Yeah. Deactivate. So write down all the reasons you wanted to leave. It's almost touching on point 7. Like, kind of think of the reasons that it didn't work. And the last but not least, number 9.
Know that no matter how much pain you're going through now, it will pass. Most people do recover from their relationships. I mean, when you have an end of a relationship, it's not the end of the world. Life does go on. we will get through it. And yeah,
and there's a big pool of avoidance out there.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Are we wrapped up there?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, unless you guys wanted to pick specific 3 that you would use, I mean, call it a night.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for listening. Fully booked. Next week, join us, or next episode, join us when we move on to part 4, which is the secure way, sharpening your relationship skills. So, as the book says, one of the key things is we should all try and aim to be secure and in a secure relationship. So that's what we'll be speaking about. I'm out, Mace. I'm out.
Yeah, we're all out.
All for one for all.
Pause.
Until next time.